Good morning and welcome to the Daily Cyber Briefing for Friday, the 26th of January. I'm Stephen Ridgway and finally using a microphone that's actually being recorded. Jenkins, there is a vulnerability that exposes Jenkins servers to remote code execution attacks. The recommendation is patch ASAP. Jenkins, for those that don't know, there's a funny story Eliza can tell you about that if you meet her in the pub one day. Jenkins is it's kind of an orchestration and automation tool that's used in CI/CD pipelines. So it's common. It's very popular. It's commonly used. There's a lot of it out there. So vulnerability is CVE 2024-23897, and it's an arbitrary file read vulnerability through the built-in command line interface. It is down to a flaw in args4j library, in the args4j library. The command parser replaces the @ character followed by a path name and argument with the file's content. So basically, it's through this vulnerability, it is possible to execute remote code. You could delete anything. You could download Java heap dump. You can decrypt secrets stored in Jenkins. So fairly serious. If you're using Jenkins, recommend that you patch ASAP. The version that you are aiming for is Jenkins 2.442 or LTS 2.426.3. And that's effectively the fix was to disable the command parser feature. Cisco has released patches to address a critical flaw in the unified communications and contact center solutions. So CVE 2024-20253 with a CVSS score of 9.9, so pretty serious. It stems from improper processing of user-provided data, which allows an attacker to send specifically crafted message to a listening point of a susceptible appliance. So, those of us that have used Cisco's unified communication stuff over the years know that, whilst it is very good, it's actually quite complicated. And these vulnerabilities do crop up. From time to time. So patches are available. Recommendation, of course, to patch ASAP if you are using Cisco's Unified Communications and Contact Center. Now, quick update on the data breach from 23andMe that we spoke about a while back now. So further information has been made available. Now, 23andMe, for those that don't know, or as a quick reminder, they are a DNA sequencing company that aims to do things like put you in touch with, tell you about your ancestry, put you in touch with, find relatives, look at genetic propensity for disease, all those sorts of things. They suffered a data breach last year. It now appears that the hackers have stolen both health reports and raw genotype data of customers. The access was gained via credential stuffing and went unnoticed for 5 months. So the initial breach will have been in April last year, and it got detected in September last year. Now, does this Matter? Well, yes, I think it does. I mean, the first thing with this is that your DNA contains a great deal of information about. In fact, it contains all the information about you. It is the code that defines all you are and all you will be. So things like your propensity to get diseases of specific sorts, who your relatives are, even the ones that you didn't know you had, are is in this. Now, even more concerning from my perspective is that, and in as there is a tendency at the moment to move towards biometric authentication, it's not beyond the realms of possibility that DNA may be part of that. Now, okay, I'm not expecting there to be a DNA tester testing kit that appears on your your laptop in the near future. Polymerase chain reaction devices don't fit neatly into a laptop, but there are there are occasions when your DNA is used to identify you. Legal during the legal process, for example, is a good one. Uh, the more that your own personal DNA sequence is bandied around, the more likely it is that somebody will use it for something they shouldn't. Now, bearing in mind that whilst you can't change your DNA is associated to you in a database somewhere. So if somebody with malicious intent has the ability to muck about with which identities are associated with which DNA, that very significantly undermines the integrity of a lot of these, and they tend to be sort of legal nation state based type databases that contain DNA. So I don't know. I think the whole concept of having your DNA sequences, especially as these now, I don't think 23andMe is full genome DNA. I think it's only specific things, but even so, it would be definitely worrying. And the fact that you can sequence full genomes now in next to no time. Back in the day, I used to do that sort of stuff. You could, in those days, sequence a tiny fragment of DNA using radioactive labeling and running things on sort of big old-fashioned photo, like gels that you would then take photo negatives of. So the world has moved on. But it is worrying. It is worrying. Can you do anything about this? Well, I don't really think you can. Once this data has been stolen, it's been stolen. I think if you are a 23andMe customer, be aware that your DNA may be out there. Be aware of the fact that I expect by now the majority of 23andMe based phishing. Oh, hello! I found I'm your long lost cousin that you didn't know existed, kind of thing. That's probably already been done. Not quite sure exactly how DNA sequences can be of use. Do know that if organisations have got access to your health data, they will be quite happy to blackmail you over the contents of your health reports. So keep an eye out for these sorts of things. If you are the victim of a crime based on the information stolen from this, do notify the authorities. And then finally from me, an interesting article in HelpNet Security talking about password lengths. Now, we all, I'm sure, agree that longer passwords are harder to crack than shorter passwords. Okay, and there is, I think, an inherent truth in that statement. However, length alone is not the solution to passwords being hacked. So the HelpNet security article, it actually talks more broadly about um, uh, passwords and password breaches, but it does point out that something in the region of 31 million breached passwords were over 16 characters. Now, you would have thought, well, hang on, how the hell's that happened? Well, the answer to that one is there are shortcuts that can be applied. So, excuse me, if you brute force a password, yeah, okay, the longer it is, the more entropy there is within the password, the longer it will take to crack. So that's just a race condition between how many processes, how many CPU cycles you can run through so quickly, looking at it's a brute forcing kind of thing. However, if you have predefined dictionary lists, you can circumvent a lot of that. So you're not looking at every possible combination. You're starting out with, is it one of these things? And then you can move on to systematically looking at all combinations of letters, numbers, and special characters. So bearing in mind that a lot of people still try to maintain memorable passwords, hackers are using things like social media platforms to gather information about potential victims if they want to get you, right, rather than just the sort of password spraying stuff. They are doing OSINT on you, and we've all seen that wonderful. I don't know whether it was a YouTube short or a TikTok, clip or whatever it was that. Of somebody saying things like, oh yeah, my password is my pet's name and my year of my birth. To which the next question is, oh really? What kind of pet have you got? Oh, I've got a cat. What's the name of your cat? What's the year you were born in? Oh, so your password's blah blah blah. Yeah. So it is. If you do use those sorts of methods for generating your own passwords, they are really very insecure. Use a password manager and just have randomly generated large, long passwords with uppercase, lowercase, numbers, and symbols in there. So the other method another method that hackers use is a mask attack. So one of the ways that you can reduce the amount of entropy that you need to, the amount of entropy within a password. So the amount of entropy being like the randomness of the password, and therefore how hard it is to guess what that password would be. However, if there's a structure to your password, then that drastically reduces the amount of entropy within that password. So if your passwords always start with a capital letter and always end with a number, or always end with a number and then a symbol, the number of people that finish a password with 1 exclamation mark, look at your keyboard, that really means that combination at the end of a password is useless from the point of view of adding entropy, because it will be tested in addition to all other combinations of words. And let's say you've got the password welcome 1 exclamation mark. Well, if you know that there's always a capital, you've reduced the number of capital at the beginning. You've reduced the number of attempts you need in order to identify what capital letter that's going to be, because it's not going to be any of those letters but in lowercase. Right. So mask attacks are increasing in their use in order to break passwords, and it greatly speeds up a brute force attack. Another one which comes up in this, which is definitely worth thinking about, is things that look at first glance to be random, but actually are just combinations of adjacent keyboard characters. QWERTY being the one that everybody's known about, but A, S, D, F, G, and if you think about it, if you can touch type, you can do them in both directions. So any combinations of, let's say, A, S, D, F, G, and going the other way, you've got semicolon L, K, J, H. That's a crap password. So things that may look to be random but actually aren't. They're based on a sequence, and in this case, a sequence which is on your keyboard, are not going to be strong enough. And then finally, you've got to bear in mind that every account in your organization matters. Now, I've had discussions with people about this in the past. It doesn't really matter for this sort of users because they don't have access to anything that really, anything sensitive in the organization. Well, at a superficial level, I think that may well be true. So, if you compromise the accounts of someone with just basic Office access, that in itself may not get you very far. However, once you are on the inside of an organization, that opens up the opportunity for escalating privileges or compromising higher privileged accounts. So any breach of any account is something that needs to be taken seriously. So yes, okay, obviously if your if your domain administrator account gets compromised, well, it's at least for a while going to be game over within that organization, because they can then give themselves access to anything that they want around your Windows estate or whatever it would be. But the other side of it is it doesn't have to be that sophisticated. So if you compromise the accounts of, say, a junior in accounts payable, that can then be used for invoice fraud. If you can then, via that, social engineer your way to get access to the CFO's account, a simple email from the CFO saying, please pay these people this much, need it done today, will result often in payments. And we've come across organizations where very much that happens. The CFO's account gets compromised, and they then appear to authorize payments of, and in one instance that we're aware of, it was millions of pounds that left the organization before they could actually catch up with what was going on. And that was because of an initial simple compromise. So you need to look after the accounts of key people within the organization, including people with technical access to things, but you can't ignore the compromises for more junior members of staff in any part of your organization, because they can be leveraged one way or another. Anyway, that's quite enough from me for today. As today's Friday, I hope you have a great weekend, and I will speak to you all again on Monday morning.